Good morning. We're out here before the heat of the day gets too bad, but we're going to do a little demonstration on installing a Banks Outdoors 600-pound feed bank. One of our customers and member of our pro staff, Ryan, here decided to put an additional feeder up at this location. So we did a little site prep with the chainsaw, got the briars out of the way, and kind of determined the spot that he wanted it. And we're just going to do a little instructional video here, maybe to give you some helpful hints and tips in installing one of these 600-pound feeders, which are awesome. So with that, we'll move on. Okay, the ideal thing is to take the 8-foot 6x6 treated post, dig the hole 3 feet deep. We ran into a little issue here, ran into some shale in this creek bottom, actually some bedrock actually. So we're not quite 3 feet on that, so we adjusted the length of our post a little bit to accommodate for that. But we always take and put at least one bag of sackcrete in the bottom of the hole around the post, just put it in dry, and usually put one bag of sackcrete around the top of the post in dry. In this case, since we had to cut a little bit of the post off and we couldn't get our 3-foot depth, we went out and got 4 more bags of sackcrete. We're going to just lay it heavy. So for the price of Quikrete or sackcrete, it doesn't pay to worry about it. So we're going to set the post next, and then we'll show you what to do from there. The next step in the process here is we put a little bit of backfill dirt in the bottom of the hole just to kind of steady the post a little bit. And we're going to try to just basically tamp that in a little at the bottom of the post as I check to make sure it's level, just to get it started. All that's doing is just giving us a basically levelness just to start with a little bit of backfill. Now we want to get a bag of Quikrete in the bottom of that hole. Happy with that? You got a knife? No. Okay. Using the split bar. We're just putting the Quikrete in dry. It'll draw moisture from the ground and it'll be fine setting up on soon. So we probably put 6-8 inches of dirt in the bottom of the hole and tamped it. And then just like any good farmer setting fence post or corner post, I want to get a bag of sackcrete in the bottom of the hole and a bag of sackcrete in the top of the hole. And in this case, Quikrete, I guess. Okay, we'll continue this process and get back to you in a little bit. Okay, we've got, like I said, we did a little overkill on this one because we ran into some shale on this creek bottom. So we cut a little bit of the post off, didn't get quite 3 feet in the ground like you normally do. So to compensate for that, instead of putting 2 bags of sackcrete or Quikrete in the hole, we put 6. We just filled the whole hole up with it at $4 a bag. It's money well spent. You don't have to worry about it. We are perfectly level. So now what we need to do is the bank 600-pound feeders actually slide down over this. So just an installation tip that makes it a little easier for putting them on and taking them back off, because your treated posts have a tendency to take on moisture and swell a little bit. So sometimes that sliding onto the feeder is a little tough. So we just knock off the corners. We've showed you this on a video once before, but we'll measure down 18 inches. That's what the actual sleeve is up inside the post. And then Ryan with the chainsaw will just knock these corners off and make life simpler for installation.
Just a little tip that we found from installing a couple dozen of these things. So. I probably won't show you the knocking the corners off because we showed you that on another video, but he's marking down 18 inches all the way around here, and we're just going to make the corners go away. You see the guy again.
Okay, what he's going to do real quick, we will go ahead and film this just so there's no, any doubts in anybody's mind what we're doing. He's going to take all 4 of these corners off, down to 18 inches from the top of the pole. long 8-inch PVC sleeve to keep the raccoons from climbing the post. Like we said before, sometimes these posts sit outside, they get a little moisture in them, they swell a little bit. This is one of them. So we're going to show you just another little trick how you get the sleeve down on if you run into this problem. So. Okay. Yeah, you might tap it a couple more times. All we use is a short spud bar just to get it down over, and yeah. That's good. Okay. Now we're going to put the feeder up. Hopefully this will go a little easier since we knocked the corners off. So we don't need that ladder, right?
No, we don't.
You got 2 ports?
Yep.
Just like that. We'll get her filled up with feed and get the lid on it, we'll be golden. Okay, we pretty well got things taken care of here. Just finishing up the last couple bags. Since Booner Ridge is a little bulkier feed, even though this is a 600-pound feeder, we only hold about 500 pounds because all the grains and the pellets in Booner Ridge are take up a little more volume than just straight corn. So. Once again, we can't stress enough that you convince your wife that this is better than a gym membership. Packing in 50-pound bags of feed and going up and down is like up and down the hills is like a Stairmaster. It all makes sense. You're grinning, but I don't see you agreeing. And of course, we do this on a day that's like 94 degrees and the humidity is like 100%. Heat index over 100. Makes all perfect sense. That would be the 10th bag, and you can see that rounds it off right about the top. Typically what we find on these 600-pound Banks feeders with 500 pounds of our feed in most locations, most customers, this will usually last 30 days. So sometimes a little less, sometimes a little more, depending on the time of the season and the other available food sources. Lid's right at the bottom of your ladder, I think. And what Ryan and Bree decided to do at their location here was something that it's actually a pretty good idea. He wanted to make less trips in here, so originally he'd set this up as a single feeder, which would have been the far one there. Then he came back here and set up the second one, increased his food volume by double, and now by going to the third one, not only is he increasing his volume of feed so he's not in here as often, but he's got 12 ports. You got 4 ports on each feeder. And what you find out with dominant does and especially dominant bucks that have a tendency to try to take control of a protein feeder, this gives the other deer an option to get away from that and still consume what they need. So if you look up here over the hill, you'll see his Banks blind sitting up there where he can monitor all this. So Pretty nice setup. Another thing you might have noticed is this isn't a creek bottom, so obviously it's real muddy through here. He's got a lot of natural springs and runoff coming down through here. Well, he noticed his deer around the feeders, just like any good farmer would notice on a food plot for cattle or anything. His feed pad was getting pretty saturated. So he came in here with a number 4 stone, just made some pads around him. And if you talk to your soil and water agent at your local soil and water agent, they'll tell you that farmers have utilized these feed pads like this for years. It keeps the ground from eroding and makes it healthier on your livestock because they're not sticking in the mud when they're trying to use these feeders. So just another little thing that crazy deer hunters do, but actually makes sense. He's watched deer come down here and get stuck in this mud, you know, 6-8 inches deep, have trouble pulling their feet out. They get a little uncomfortable if a dominant deer comes in, so makes them a little more comfortable when they can stand on top and exit quickly if need be. But I think the biggest premise here is the fact that he now has 3 protein feeders that you can come in here, fill them once, and disappear here for a couple months and not have to come back. So, and he's got 12 ports that are spaced out equally, so there's no competition between them. So